Hello everybody, my name is Harry and welcome to the first ever episode of Why AI. Why AI is a podcast where we're going to be discussing the topic of AI as a whole and the use of AI in education, the benefits of AI and some potential issues. And I'm joined today by Steve House, who's going to have a chat with me about the topic of AI, and I hope you enjoy. What we're looking at first, what should we go? Yeah, we were just talking about the recent sort of checks of plagiarism, because obviously now, students have found, ChatGPT and things like that. And
I know a few people that are looking at this and it's like they're struggling. Like I've heard stories of, like students using ChatGPT to make their like essay or whatever, dissertation or whatever. Yeah. And then they're like not just handing it in like that, they go and put it through something else. Yeah, right. So like chop it up. So basically it makes it even more just like impossible. It's like, fair enough. Like some people are saying, you put it through ChatGPT and then you can like ask GPT, did you make this? Yeah. And some people are saying that it's like good at identifying that, which might be the case, but I also think there's I don't even know if that's right, whether that's even right. Like how can it necessarily know it wrote something, what I mean? That's not what it's built for. No. So I don't think that's obviously
it's going to reach a point where it is fully governed? Do you think it's going to get to that place, or do you think it's just going to keep evolving?
It's going to be harder in the end it's just a language model, isn't it? So all that ChatGPT is doing is you're giving it a question, it's going into its black box, and then it's then generating what the next word is. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, what the next word is when we're explaining this. You know what I mean? So if I ask it like a really basic question like, what happened, when was the end of the First World War? It doesn't go, wonder when that was. It was, and then on this day in 1945 or whatever, you know what I mean? So
it's not developing its own.
It's not like it's picking that. If I ask you a question, you're going into a little chunk of knowledge in your brain, and then find that little chunk of knowledge and expressing it in the way that you want to express it. Whereas that's not what this is doing. That's just giving you the answer based on the information that you're. That's not what you're doing. You're not like just. You're going to that little pocket of information and explaining it, whereas ChatGPT is like rolling through and giving you an answer based on what the next best word is in that sequence. Or I might be like being a bit simplistic, but that's kind of like where it's coming from. And so for the same reason, like it can't really go, I wrote this, because it's like, I don't think it can anyway, because it's not really. That's not what it's doing, It's not taking that chunk of text and going, is this something in the past that I wrote? It's not like it's got it probably does somewhere have like a backlog of everything that's been written, because I'd imagine OpenAI keep hold of that. But then you've got the fact that even if OpenAI are holding that information, there's loads of other language models.
Of course, yeah.
You know what I mean? So ChatGPT might be like, I didn't write this, but Bard might have written it. Right, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
or did an AI write this? Like, how is it going to necessarily know that? And then the other thing that worries me with that is, more importantly, it's one thing like catching someone for cheating, and it's one thing like blaming someone for cheating that hasn't been cheating. Right. Do you know what I mean? So how many false, like I've heard loads of things of false positives.
So do you think that it's just got the education system is just essentially going to have to just keep up with it and just incorporate it? Because is it futile trying to go back and change and go back to how they were?
The main thing is that you can't this problem isn't going to be solved by identifying people who plagiarize. The reality is, if you're an English teacher or a maths teacher or anything, you know what I mean, you're a teacher in a school, and like you set homework, you've been able to cheat for since Google came out, you know what I mean, kind of thing.
It's been around for a while. Now it's just
not like AI. It might be like more blatant. It might write your essays and stuff more. But I've been a physics teacher. If I set 20 questions as a homework, like they can probably just Google those questions.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Get the answer. Absolutely. Like that's always probably been the case for 20 years. You know what I mean? So it's not kind of this idea that it's like you're gonna have people cheating. Well, people have always been cheating. Now, obviously, there's these bigger level things like writing a whole dissertation. Obviously, you couldn't necessarily do that before. But when I'm talking about things, isn't it? But when I'm talking about like what's happening in a secondary school lesson, that's not gonna. Can't see that having that much of an impact in that sense, because you've always been able to cheat. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So it's a difficult one. You know, like even an English essay, you know, if you set an essay that's like, write about how a certain character is influenced by another character.
Of course.
Well, there's obviously an essay on that out there.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? So it's like you actually check every time a student submits an essay, you check in that they, like, obviously you can do things like get them to handwrite it. You can still copy it off ChatGPT, but you can say, maybe some learning's going on there. But
well, I mean, if they want to take enough time out, they can just reword what ChatGPT wrote. They can keep
but in some ways, that's a good. That's where what you set as the homework sort of matters, because if instead the homework is like, let's just take, like, I'm not an English teacher, but I say it's something about, you know, how does the character Macbeth portrayed? You know, if they go home and the answer is that they've got to create something, and then they're going to be asked questions on it in the next lesson. That's the homework. So the questions, you're going to be asked 5 questions in the next lesson. That's a different homework. You can use ChatGPT to do that. You can use ChatGPT to find out loads of stuff and read about it and find out.
So you're still learning. It still doesn't change the fact it's not like that. You've just changed
how you ask the question as the homework. And like I get, like, you know, the idea that teachers are going to be able to battle it is just, I would say, pretty much pointless, because how can you really, really battle against the potential of someone, you know, cheating, when they can kind of do that anyway, and you're going to be spending loads of time firefighting it, whereas instead if you just readjust how you ask the question,
you're going to end up incorporate it, involve it, and
exactly.
So you think it's sort of essentially the future of the education system?
And it's like anything. It's like it's a bit like, I say, I've never taught at university, and it's a bit different from the point of view of a degree, you know what I mean? And obviously writing a thesis at the end of it, so that is quite different. Like, I did a physics degree, it was less about writing a thesis, it was more about the exams, but you know what I mean, we still had to put stuff together.
Of course.
But, and it, like, you know, ChatGPT would have made that easier for me.
Absolutely.
But the reality is it just it changes a bit of like what you're assessing, and in the end it's like, if it's I guess it's one of those things where the places where I can still see it really struggling or having a really big impact is where the skill is putting that knowledge together, and that's then required for the job. You know what I mean? So like, I'm just being a bit like guessing here, but you know, like, well, not guessing, but if you like doing a degree, you know, an English degree to become a journalist, then you obviously need to be able to demonstrate that you can put all that knowledge together.
It's getting from A to B rather than just having the mental spot that you're instantaneously.
I guess what people would say is that, well, that's going to change. So the job itself, like the journalist job, is going to be using ChatGPT. So and that's true. It's like it's the same with anything. It's the same with calculators, a slide rule, anything. You know what I mean? It's like, if you, like, we still teach kids mental maths, even though the calculators exist. But the actual reality of the world is that if you've got a difficult calculation, you pretty much just use the calculator on your phone or whatever.
Everywhere, isn't
it?
So wherever you
so it's like it becomes that question like what's necessary. So I still think it's like we still need to be teaching students how to write and formulate an argument and all that kind of thing, but how you assess it is basically the difference for me. I think that's there's no real answer. There's no real straight up answer, but that's how I'd say you've got to go about it. I think there's been loads of stories, hasn't there, with teachers having to do that. But think about the fact that there's the amount of tools that this now gives a teacher. Do you know what I mean? So I saw something the other day that, and I had a little go at it myself, but it would be better in a full English class, where they all they do is got ChatGPT up on the board, and then on the whiteboard or whatever, and then they were like saying to it, be a certain character from like a play or a book or whatever, and I want you to act like the same character, and then they were asking it questions. So the questions were like, how do you feel about this other character, and so on, and that was quite interesting, because you could ask it stuff that it could then sort of feed back on. Now I haven't checked that to see how good it is at that from a point of view of technical correctness, but you could imagine that for loads of things, pretend to be Napoleon, pretend to be blah blah blah, you know what I mean, that
just giving it from different views,
learning in different ways, and that's really, and I think that there's a huge development there, isn't there? It's like it doesn't just I can see you doing that, let's go 5 years down the line, virtual reality, step into a room with Napoleon.
Yeah, and you can have a conversation directly with him, see what it's like to be there. Yeah, in the room, and that's just going to change everything in regards to gaming and, like you said, like exactly storytelling.
Well, it will just change the whole gaming industry. Obviously, will probably lead the way on like things like this, because that's where big advancements happen, because that's where a lot of the money is. Do you know what I mean? So I can see that being there, but in terms of bringing it into the classroom, it just works because it's going to engage the students, and it's something that you can't really do without it.
No.
Do you see what I mean? So like it's
especially now once they've sort of been shown it, to take it away now, it's be...
there's no chance that you could take away what they're what they've been exposed to in terms of it. It's just like you say, it's different. It's everyone, I'm not quite old enough really to properly remember like the internet coming out, but I remember like the late 90s and early 2000s when it was like boom, that was when I was at school, and I'm sure then loads of teachers and so on would say that this is like going to be the end of everything in terms of thing. Just in the same way that when books started being printed,
of course,
hundreds of years ago, people then said this is the end of like storytelling. Do you know what I mean? This is the end of storytelling because it's just written, and it's just like no, it's not. It's just different. And it changes as it goes along, and that's the thing. I don't, again, and the people that use it change. Do you see what I mean? So it's like how do you actually use the tools becomes really important. Like you could argue, this might not be true, but generally, if you've got a teacher that is really good at using technology, really good at like involving the students using like loads of different types of technology and stuff like that they're going to have an edge on someone that doesn't use it at all. Do you see what I mean? Like that might not be always true, but that's an option there. And it'd be the same with this. It's like if you choose to not teach students using it or involve them, then in the long run that might be worse.
I think it's quite interesting because when I first started realising what it was, in a sense, it was more in my head it was all writing and just very sort of like two-dimensional, but it's it's art as well, isn't it? You can use it with art, you can use it with photography, and that's just crazy within itself.
I don't know, there's how much you play with different ones, but things like Midjourney, and you've got DALL-E 2 and Stable Diffusion. So these are all like diffusion models, and what they basically do is they are trained on loads and loads and loads of data in exactly the same way that large language models are. But then when they're given the text, they can obviously convert that and create an image. And that ability, weirdly, that's almost easier than text. So that's really odd how that's actually. That's why you could argue that's more advanced. Like the stuff that Midjourney produces is unbelievable. The stuff that ChatGPT produces is very, very good. Do you know what I mean? But like you can, it's still like ChatGPT. You'll ask it something and it'll be great, and then you'll ask it something else and you think, why can't it do like if you ask ChatGPT to say, write a story that's 20 words long or whatever, you know what I mean? Which, to be fair, a 7-year-old could do.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And we'll get it right every time.
Of course.
If they write a sentence that's 20 words long, they could write one 20 words long every time, never get it wrong. Whereas ChatGPT will produce one that'll be like 24 words long.
It's just slightly struggles.
So it struggles with something like that. With the photos and generating realistic stuff, it's like completely like, this is a picture. Do you know what I mean? It seems they draw me like a really hyper realistic picture, real close up of a wasp or something. You're like,
had to play with it a couple of times.
Exactly. It's like you couldn't take that picture without being like a proper pro photographer.
Absolutely. And they are ridiculous. Most of them. Obviously sometimes it's not quite clear in certain aspects.
But the things that it gets wrong are weirdly are things like human hands. It'll put like 6 fingers and stuff like that. For some reason it can't get that always right. But in terms of generally, it's a much. You could say that arguably that's like 2 years ahead, really, of where the tech probably is. But it's still, it's all really impressive. But people are use that. That's another good thing that you can use that in terms of art. You can use it in terms of like understanding different artistic styles. Do you know what I mean? So you can ask it to draw things in certain styles, so you get an idea of what those styles mean. All those sorts of things. There's loads of educational opportunities there. Do you see what I mean? Like, it's just because it doesn't get rid of art.
No.
Like, you could say, where does art go? Like, obviously art moves on.
Yes,
but then
absolutely.
art's moved on since Photoshop got created. Art's moved on since all of that stuff got created. So it's another step in a certain direction.
Just feels like a little bit of a bigger leap than
possibly. Well, it is, isn't it? But it's it doesn't get rid of something, it just adds to it, I guess, is the argument.
Definitely.
But
it'd be interesting to see. Obviously there's quite a divide in the sense of, people, it's fascinating, it's fantastic, but it's going to help artists, and it's going to help, for example, actors who are getting headshots. But it's also putting the photographers in a unusual position. So
I don't know, like, this is definitely going to be massively disruptive. Obviously, it's going to be massively disruptive in education. It's going to be massively disruptive in loads and loads of industries. It already is in some places, like like call centers and stuff like that are looking at how much does it cost to have a chat GPT person answer the phone compared to paying someone, and potentially paying someone who's in a completely different country. You've got to manage the call center, that hopefully do they speak the language well enough?
They might not turn up.
And there's all of that kind of thing, whereas obviously chat GPT and plug in, I'm not saying people are necessarily using this yet, but you can imagine that would be, and chat GPT, you could feed it, so you can train it, so you can like all of these large language models can be trained on lots of data, so you could train it on all of your company information. Do you see what I mean?
So it knows exactly without a shadow of a doubt. Every question that's asked, it knows everything.
Exactly. So whereas you call up a technical advice person and they're like, I need to pass on to my manager. I need to pass on to them. How many phones can you answer at once? Well, I can only answer 5, whereas I can answer as many as I like. You know what I mean? In tandem. So there's loads of like why wouldn't you use that eventually if it's as good or even better? Like, I'm thinking, you call up, you're on holiday in Turkey. And you need to call up the local, I don't know, kebab or pizza or whatever, you know what I mean? And you click on it, rather than a human answering it, a person answers it, and you can say, talk to me in English. I'll order in English, I'm just thinking of silly little things like that, but it's like, why wouldn't you do that if that's it? And it knows all the menu, it knows everything. That's just a silly little example.
Knows all the languages.
Do it in any language you want. Little things like that, you just think they're tiny, but they're also massive, because that's like millions of jobs. So there's places I think there's going to be big disruption there. But then further to that, you're going to get disruption across a wide range of jobs where at first it starts to be the AI supports you doing it. Do you know what I mean? So at the moment, the AI need, like, a lawyer or a journalist or someone like that is going to find the AI tools really useful for creating content, but they're then going, or answering emails or answering questions or planning, whatever. But teachers planning lessons, that kind of thing.
Lessons,
but the point is that in the long run, at some point, AI, as it gets better and better and better, stuff like being a journalist, if it can write better than you, like, it's gonna write better than you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It can write in any style it wants. You know what I mean? And it can just take the last 10,000 New York Times articles and write it in exactly the same style, like that. About anything. Then it's going to be used, isn't it? And that's the thing. And I think slowly jobs like that will change. The question is what happens. And I think this refers to, I can't remember who said this, but someone said it quite interesting. It's like, if you go back to like 1890, everyone was a farmer. Do you know what I mean? Or maybe a manual labour or something. Maybe worked down a mine or something.
Blacksmith.
Something like that. Well, no, a blacksmith was probably quite a small number job. Most people work the ground. Of course. You know what I mean? So, and then now, I don't know what percentage of farmers, but it's 2 or 3% of the whole world. Do you know what I mean? And so,
machines.
Machines. But no one's those people aren't out of a job.
No.
Do you see what I mean? And as this person, I can't remember who it was, but they said, no one back then in 1902 would have ever thought you needed a dog psychologist.
No.
You know what I mean?
Or
a dog all of these things. Like, why would you? You can't think of what jobs are needed. Do you see what I mean? So as the AI, the AI might take, let's be honest, self-driving cars
could
remove all taxi drivers.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? All truck drivers, which is a big percentage of people.
Of course.
I'm not saying it's going to happen tonight, but it could happen in the long run. But then, what will that mean that those people will do? Well, you don't... Obviously, well, there's a couple of things here. One, if that happens really quickly, then that might be the difference. So all the farmers were still farmers.
Yes.
And as the new machinery came out and so on, they slowly became not farmers. They worked
alongside the machinery, and then
their sons or daughters became something else other than farmers, whereas they probably passed through as farmers because it was a change of 50 years or whatever, or a generational change. Whereas I guess the issue with AI is if tomorrow suddenly you don't need Uber or taxi or truck drivers because Ford have made this new self-driving vehicle that doesn't need anyone, it's miles better and miles safer, then I guess you go from exactly. Then but you go from having a situation where you've got you've got hundreds and thousands, maybe millions of people with jobs, and suddenly tomorrow they haven't got a job. That's a bit different. I think that's where the worry comes from, in the sense of like, is it too quick? Is it too because it is like, you think how much it's changed from like all the stuff we're looking at now that we're almost getting bored by was like insane like 9 months ago. If last October, if someone had told you this would be like this in even by January or whatever, people would just be like whatever, what I mean, whereas actually it was just brilliant. So
it's taken very much so into society now, hasn't it? It's been taken on in pretty much every role, so like it's touching all areas, isn't it?
100%. And like that's going to be the big thing, is where do people like go for jobs, like where did jobs end up going? Because there are going to be lots of jobs that still can't be done by AI for a long time. Like I teaching, probably one of them. Do you know what I mean? Like definitely. It's like
the human interaction is quite needed in that job,
exactly,
isn't it? You have to have that.
I certainly think there's going to be loads of AI stuff going in there that will like not replace teachers, but will like do certain things better than teachers.
Well, I mean, maybe the admin side of
the admin side of it,
change,
but also just like at the moment you want to know how well a student's doing in your subject, and that's all in your head and a couple of test marks.
Absolutely,
Whereas obviously if you can know like a large amount of knowledge, every single question I've ever answered, test I've ever done is done through AI, then obviously you'll know a really detailed idea of what that student knows and what they don't know. Do you know what I mean? So there's loads of developments there, but then in terms of giving that teacher, like you say, that interaction, that kind of social interaction, all that kind of stuff like that, that's really, really important for schools. You know what I mean? Like,
definitely.
You've got to admit, like, schools, there's loads to a kid going to school other than learning the subject they're doing. You know what I mean? It's like learning how to get on with your peers, learning how to respect 100%. Teachers, all of that kind of thing.
Like we said, the human interaction side of teaching and being at school was probably the most important thing, because you take to a teacher, you do better. Like it's as simple as that.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
If it's just a screen teaching, just giving you barrels of information, it's not really
that's not going to
sit with you.
That's not. I definitely think it'll get in there and it'll help in certain areas. I definitely think like bursts of that will definitely help. Just in the same way that there's loads of tech out there, isn't there, for like learning. Like if you want to learn a language, you probably download Duolingo. Yeah, do you know what I mean?
Which is now taken AI.
It's probably not better than going to live in that country for 3 months.
Of course, definitely never.
So it's one of those where it's like it's a bit of something. You know what I mean? It's that little bit, a bit extra helps out. I think that's quite important. But there's obviously other jobs that we talked about already, like that are more obvious. They're going to get taken quickly. Potentially.
I think the with the driving side of stuff, I think the sort of, I don't know whether it's just sort of product of association, but I feel like the electric cars complement the AI side of things quite well, just because there's no there's no gear change in the car, there's no putting petrol into the car, it's all quite automated, isn't it? Whereas that sort of isn't it's not taken, especially in England, it seems to have hit a bit of a slump.
There's places like San Francisco, isn't there, where they have loads of self-driving cars.
So legal to have self-driving cars over here, isn't it?
Exactly.
Fully self-driving cars.
But in some ways they have some that go around with not even like a safety person. It's like that's how they run. And I think that is growing, but you don't get a petrol self-driving car, do you? It's
no, I don't. So I mean, maybe sometime, but not right now. One, yeah, definitely.
But I think there's loads of the question then becomes as well, all of this, that there's a bigger question that we'll definitely have to talk about another time in more detail, but the whole when you're what are you teaching students for, in the sense of like, what are the goals of what you're teaching students for? Because if you're teaching them to become, like, I don't know, something that's replaceable, you know what I mean, with AI, and it's like, what, there's no point.
And
I think there's loads of jobs that you wouldn't even think about, like, not necessarily the whole job, but the part of that job. So for example, like a doctor, like, now it's one of those things, it's like, well, do you want to speak to a doctor, or do you want to speak to an AI doctor that knows all of the everything that literally knows that you could possibly know? So now obviously there's the personal side and stuff like that, but like the reality is when you've got something wrong with you want it fixed. You know what I mean? And you want it fixed quickly. It's like, do you want to speak to the AI doctor that knows everything, that might not be quite have the personal touch, but can speak to you now?
And
or do you want the information you need right now? Or do you want to speak to the human? You might be a week. You know what I mean? And,
well,
like,
I mean, it's not.
There's no question, is there? So there's things like that like. And I think the AI is still not there from the reasoning point of view to be able to be fully able to do that, but I certainly think I can see them, in the same way if you go to like accident emergency, there's like a triage nurse that will go like, your leg's fallen off, so you probably need to go through quickly, absolutely. And you've got a cut on your hand, so you can probably be seen later, and they triage it out. I can see there being stuff like that where AI goes, right, these people we can deal with, directly. These people probably need, because there's more nuance to it, to go from there. I know that just outside of AI though, there's a couple of interesting studies, and unfortunately I can't reference them, but I know that when they looked at like biopsy slides, so they were looking at like biopsy slides and looking for cancer, do you know what I mean? And there's a lot of psychology about how people think about it, because they were told that would you like to use the like, it wasn't AI, but the kind of like machine learning thing that will, software that will check your slide, and it has a 60% chance of getting it right. Which you're looking at me now quite negative, but humans are like 40% chance of getting it right.
Oh wow. Right. Okay.
But the thing is, you don't.
But if you're tossed up with those two decisions, there's no show, is there?
Humans are weird in the sense that they don't. We judge risk and we judge things like that really badly. It's like, are you more scared driving or in a plane?
In a plane, without a shadow of that, every time.
But it's clear that driving is way more dangerous than being in a plane.
Definitely.
And it's like one of those things where, and so the same sort of principles apply, and it's like, there is a stage that takes like self-driving cars, so what's okay? If it kills every 10 million miles, it kills someone, is that okay? Because that's I don't know the stats, but that's probably a lot better than the human.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? Or even if it's 100 million miles, and it's like where people drop. But I can tell you, the first time someone gets killed by a self-driving car, or even serious injured, that'll be like
breakout,
and it'll be all like, these need to be closed down.
I think it's just like being closer to the control in the situation, I guess. Whereas you feel closer to controlling a human than you do a machine, I guess.
That's it, and I think that's where coming back to the whole what are we teaching people for? Well, it's difficult, because it's like, not what are we teaching people for, as in what are we teaching them to do? You know what I mean? Training them up for. It's like, are we training them to be doctors? Because is the knowledge side of the doctor going to disappear? Because does the doctor need that? Like,
is it just going to be someone delivering news?
Is it going to be like, even if it's that? So there's that kind of thing, like the lawyer, same sort of principle. Anything that's just, anything that's like taking a situation, taking a bunch of information, diagnosing from that information an outcome. Do you see what I mean? So like, so where they don't realistically, all they're doing is they're going, you've told me that you've got this and this from me. Well, based on my knowledge and my experience, I think you've got this. Do you see what I mean? That's what that is. Or we'll test for this or whatever. And the reality is when you really boil it down to that, why can't an AI do that? Definitely. Do you see what I mean? So like, and like, the reasoning might need to get better, and again, like, it's the same sort of principle. It's like, the first time one of them misses something and someone dies,
something goes wrong, something gets wrongly conducted.
The last 100,000 people, it hasn't done that, and if it had been a human doing it, it would have actually been 50 people wrongly convicted, or 50 people have died. So there's definitely a load of stuff there. You know what I mean? That's difficult to understand where people will.
We've just not been, sort of socialised with it as such. With this form of, it's like, machinery. I guess.
100%.
It's going to take a bit of time to just get used to it and have it incorporated into society, isn't it?
But then it's like students, like, when will a AI be a plumber? It's like I can't see an AI robot.
No.
Like, that's years off.
Yeah.
Well, I might be completely wrong. Maybe someone quite, like, to be fair, ChatGPT blew my mind 6 months ago. Maybe something else will come out and it'll be like crazy. But the reality is that isn't gonna. You're still going to need someone to come and fix your sink under the thing, probably. You know what I mean, for a long time. Yeah. Now, whether that obviously, whether it becomes very easy to do that because actually you don't need to know anything. You just walk in and say the problem is X, Y, and Z, and then the thing says, right, turn this, do that, put this down. So
it's sort of giving you instruction more than actually someone coming in and doing
thing, because it's like much more. Like everything's moved towards that anyway. It's like not being. I'm not a plumber, but like you see, like everything. Well, not everything, but lots of things like push fit. You don't have to get your welding equipment out now.
Of course
not.
Some
plumbers do, I'm sure. But
if you don't know how to do it, you can go on YouTube and look at a video.
But it's like, and it's like the equivalent thing of like said it's an AI thing saying, oh, your problem's this, so do this. But like I can see there being a lot of that in the sense of helping jobs, but those ones where it's manual, they've got to physically do something that's like going to be awkward for a robot type thing to do it. Is definitely going to that will take, I think, longer to disappear. But then in some ways things will get designed differently. That's the key. So if you think about driverless cars, a good example. Making a human robot that sits in the wheel, turning the wheel, would be basically impossible. But changing how it works, so it sensors at the front, it doesn't have a steering wheel, it's not something like you know what I mean? It doesn't. That's not how it works. You know what I mean?
SpaceX satellite that sort of moves out of its way, doesn't it? That's got AI incorporated into it.
Exactly. So
the way of the asteroids and
that's it. So stuff that anything that's. Why not what you do is you redesign stuff so that a robot can do it. You see what I mean? Not redesign the whole thing, not make something that's a human.
Of course, I get what you mean. So
like a lawnmower,
taken away from
like they have tried, like they have like those automated lawnmowers that go around. It's like
it's not
you haven't made a human.
Of course.
Built a human.
I think that's what's in everybody's head when they think about AI.
So it's like you want an ironing robot.
Yes.
You're not going to get an ironing robot.
No.
But what you might find is that there's a way of like, if you put them in this machine, it like steams it and flattens it and all that kind of, you know what I mean? It's just it's not going to work in the same way. Do you know what I mean? And it's the same sort of principle with this, and it's like they're going to design things differently. So I think that is a big thing for schools. What are we teaching? Like, there's two sides to it, obviously. Like, what are we teaching the kids for is like, we still teach mental arithmetic. Going back to the thing I said like half an hour ago, if we still teach mental arithmetic, but we don't do mental arithmetic like we do, obviously, but you don't physically need to do mental arithmetic, but we still do it in school quite heavily, much more heavily than how you use it out in the real world.
Definitely.
The same applies for like, why do you do Pythagoras theorem? Well, it's like because you build up a knowledge and a demonstration that you can solve those sorts of problems. You know what I mean? When you leave school, I don't know about you, but I haven't used a squared plus b squared equals c squared very often. Do you know what I mean?
Not every day.
Not every day. So there are like some use cases, obviously. There are obviously some people that will use that every day job, but the reality is the reason why you do it at school is because it means that you can solve a problem at that level. Do you see what I mean? So when you get your 5 at maths GCSE or whatever, it's because you can solve that level of problem. If you get a 9, you can solve that level of problem. Do you see what I mean? And that's all it's really detailing. So there is that big question: does the education system need to change to match the fact that all these jobs are going to change, or is actually the education system just giving you a broad range of skills that you can use in loads of different areas and display? You can do them, and that's a lot of even university. It's like, why do you do a PhD? Well, not PhD. Why do you do a degree? And a thesis and something, and it's like most people do the thesis. I did mine on I did astrophysics, and my thesis was on like batteries that are used within satellites. You know what I mean?
Right,
I've never done anything like that, but it just demonstrates that I was able to research that. Not with ChatGPT. And demonstrate that, find out about that and write that, and you know what I mean? So it's the same sort of principle in that, you know, do we change that? Lots of people are calling it's got to be changed, but I'm not saying it hasn't. I am all up for change. But a lot of it is that education system, you know, most people don't use Pythagoras theorem, but it's been on the syllabus because it's about showing that you can solve that level of problem.
And you've got that bank.
Exactly.
That you can do that, and you can
So like when when an employer's looking at your grades now, I've got loads of things we can say about that, but you know, when they're looking at your grades, they're sort of in the back of their mind, they go, okay, that sort of level of ability.
It's like a subconscious judgment
of that level of ability. Exactly. They're not going, oh great, they'll be able to solve our Pythagoras theorem. They're just going, right, a 5 or a 6 or whatever that relates to is where it shows them their ability.
Absolutely. But I mean, that's, you know, I feel like things are sort of changing in a sense of been changing for the last sort of, I don't know, 5 years. I don't know if you agree, just like moving away from the degree side of things and people going into manual labour jobs and trade jobs, and they seem to have had a massive spike from like, lots of people.
I have no idea what the stats are, but I think that will probably happen because they are the jobs. Like you're either gonna go down the line of, like, obviously lots of people go lots of different ways, but you're gonna either go down the line of getting trained up in something that's manually complicated. That can't be replaced. Do you know what I mean? So whatever that is, like obviously, like I'm sure loads of stuff will come in to support those trades. I mean, you probably need less people. You know, I can totally see a little mini robot running around and bringing all the stuff to everyone on site. You know what I mean, all day long. You know, stuff like that. But the physical thing of like being an electrician, pulling those wires through, collecting them up is going to be difficult. But the other, so you're either going down that line, I think, or you're going down the line of going, can I get into something where my knowledge is going to be like able to be used to, or my skills are going to be able to be used to develop AI systems, because that's like, you know, well, you know, where is that useful? Like at the moment, you've got this whole idea of like designing prompts and all that kind of stuff, and being like, you know, technically, I'm sure that'll disappear because the AI can already write better prompts.
It's self-evolving.
Exactly. Like so that, but there will be certainly places, I'm sure, where it's like, you know, this is going to be useful. You know, being able to design certain things that, like we went on about that. I know this is a really basic example where they you know, any child could write out a sentence with 20 words in. So there's obviously weaknesses area.
Definitely.
There's obviously
I imagine they will start being swept up there. In the very near future.
And then it's like, but then how does that like evolve out? How does that grow? You can sort of see certain niches that are now just like 2 or 3 people being like loads of people. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Whereas, you know.
So it'll open up opportunities, as you know.
I'm sure, and it will have to. And like, there's it will definitely open up opportunities. And like, we won't talk about it now, but we could talk about the idea of like things like universal basic income. So this is like the idea of, you know, once the AI, if the AI absolutely decimates the job market, as in just destroys it, so it's like 80% of jobs disappear. And obviously, the wealth's still being created, so as long as it's not captured all by 1 or 2 people, if it's distributed and regulated, then obviously, you know, universal basic income, those sorts of ideas are there as like options. Do you know what I mean? But people have got to think about it early on, because obviously otherwise someone will just, you know, Amazon will just get all the money. Do you know what I mean? Or whatever. That's just one.
Sociologically, it'll be interesting to see the, you know, where the power sort of shifts around, and you know, if it remains the way it is, or if it's going to go to fewer people or even more. And just that's a bit of a juncture, isn't it, and seeing where it's going to go. I think we've come up to the 40-minute mark there, so cool. Probably ought to leave that, but we'll talk about that next time. Nice,
great stuff. Fun. Thanks for listening.